Hello.
Shinam, I hope I'm audible and visible. Hi everyone, I hope I'm audible and visible to you. Shinam, if you are able to hear me, can you just confirm?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello. Hello.
Yep, got it. I'm starting.
Yeah.
So, hi everyone. Welcome to another session of the Blockchain ADDS course. So, in previous sessions, we've seen the blockchain basics, and then we took a slightly deeper introduction into Ethereum. Now, today I'm going to talk about the other 15 blockchains. So, as a blockchain architect and developer, I've worked across 16 frameworks primarily in the public blockchain domain, Ethereum being the most important. And then these are the other 15. So, that's what we are going to talk about today. So, broadly, I mean, you can see the entire list here. We're going to go through them one by one. And then, I'm going to kind of give you an overview and introduction to some of the interesting features that each of them have. So obviously, right in the beginning, I'd like to tell you, a lot of people wonder, like, do we have to learn all 16? So no, not at all. It depends upon what you're trying to do or what is your use case. Depending upon your use case, you would then choose which of these public blockchains make sense for what you're trying to do. Or there may be a scenario in which you don't want to use a public blockchain and you could use the software of these other blockchains because they're all open source. You could use them and spin up your own private or hybrid version of a blockchain and use that. So once you understand what each of these blockchains does and how it is different from the others, then when a use case comes, you'll be in a better position to take a call. Now, one thing is important to remember that blockchain and cryptocurrencies or other crypto assets are very tightly connected to each other. It is very difficult to have one without the other. So obviously a crypto cannot survive without a blockchain, and a blockchain kind of loses most of its value if it does not have some kind of a native crypto attached to it. Now, the most common reason for which we have a native token is to pay for the transaction fee. Because after all, if you want to have many people running nodes of your blockchain, then obviously you need to incentivize them. That what are they going to get? Why would they spend computational power, electricity, and so many other costs? So how do you pay them? And that's where the native token comes in. So for example, when we talk about the Algorand blockchain, so Algorand is the name of the blockchain and the native token is ALGO. Similarly, Avalanche native token AVAX. So like this, every public blockchain will have a native token, which is known by a symbol, which is 3-4 characters usually. So you can see now one slightly different situation here is Binance coin. Because when Binance started, which was I think 2017, they started as a crypto exchange. Later, they set up a blockchain which was basically used for running the exchange. So it was called Binance Chain. And then they realized that they needed another blockchain for smart contracts. So that is when they came out with Binance Smart Chain. And now they're probably going to come out with the third blockchain. But the native token is BNB across Binance chain as well as Binance Smart Chain, and it will also be for the new blockchain that comes in. So Binance is slightly a little different here. The others, again, if you notice, Cardano has ADA. So other than that, all of these, they have one native token for one blockchain. In Ethereum, while we were discussing, we saw that there is a mainnet, which is the public blockchain, and then there are test nets. Now, the same ETH doesn't work in all. So the main ETH that we use works on the mainnet, and then there are separate versions called ETH, but they run on testnet. But you can't really transfer it from mainnet to testnet. So that is why we say Ethereum, one blockchain, one token. The only difference so far is Binance, two blockchains, one token, and in future, three blockchains still having one token. Any questions? Is it all clear? If you have questions, please type them in the comments. If you're watching live, I'll answer them right now. If you're watching later, No problem. You can always post it and I'll answer it later. Shino, if there are questions, can you just post it or can you just write no questions?
Yeah, I would do that. I wanted to ask you that is this a session where people will have to send a request to be in, because I'm not able to accept it because I'm not the co-host.
Oh, except for what? No. Everybody is watching on YouTube live only.
Okay, great.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Now, before we continue, I'd like to clarify, you should watch this video called Blockchain Basics. I hope you've already done that. Otherwise, anyway, this article also I've shared with you. You can look at the video later. Now, let's go to the first one, which is Algorand. Now, you'll notice that whenever we talk about a blockchain, the first thing we talk about is the consensus mechanism, which in blockchain, Algorand's case is something called pure proof of stake. So now, if you're new to blockchain, you probably wonder what is the meaning of consensus. So what is unique about blockchain is consensus, wherein people who do not trust each other can come together and do transactions where you don't trust each other, you trust the technology. And that is ultimately the consensus mechanism. That how is it that people who don't know and trust each other are able to rely upon transactions recorded in this distributed ledger of a blockchain? So the world's first consensus mechanism was proof of work, which is what Bitcoin is built on, which is what Ethereum still uses. Now, we've covered proof of work in great detail in the blockchain basics video, so I won't go back into that. But I'd like to tell you that there are many different consensus mechanisms today. I hope you're able to see my screen here. So you will see that usually they're divided into these categories. So you have something called chain-based proof of work, and then you have proof of stake, then you have PBFT. So there are like tons of them. And then inside these categories, there are separate individual ones. So I will also share this URL with you. So this is a very nice infographic which introduces 72 consensus mechanisms. So I mean, it's huge, right? So just this one diagram covers about 72 of them. And later, once you look at the diagram, it'll kind of put things in perspective and make it a little easy for you to understand. Do you need to know all 72 in future? Yes, in due time. As of right now, you're just getting introduced. But later, when it comes to choosing which blockchain you want to use, the consensus mechanism will become one of the most important factors in choosing which blockchain you should go for. So Algorand, like I said, pure proof of stake. Now, in Algorand, I would say that some of the unique features, which is what I think makes Algorand pretty unique, is the fact that Algorand has a lot of hybrid features. So, in a pure public blockchain, once you lose your crypto, someone steals it, there's very little that you can do. But in Algorand, at the standard asset level, they have given role-based controls. So different people can have different permissions, whether you are from the business team, compliance team, or the regulatory team. If something goes wrong and an investigation is being done, then assets can be quarantined or locked so that the suspected person cannot take them and vanish. After the investigation is done, you can force the asset to be transferred to someone else if you felt that it was a theft or a fraud or anything. And then permissions can be configured, so only whitelisted addresses can do certain things. Off-chain documentation can be included. Let's ignore that for right now. But these 2 or 3 factors make Algorand pretty unique. And that is why in my own project, the hybrid finance blockchain, I have taken a lot of these characteristics from Algorand and incorporated them into our project. So that's what I really like about Algorand. Another thing which I find really cool is that they've got something called rekeying in layer 1. So that means at the main blockchain level, you'll usually hear layer 1, layer 2. We'll come back to layer 2 later. So in the main core blockchain, you can change your private key without changing the public address. Now, we've always said that a public and a private key are linked to each other, right? They go together. Algorand gives you an ability to change your private key while maintaining the public address that you already have. So that's another feature that I find really cool in it. If there are any questions, can you put them in? Shino, if there are no questions, can you just...
No. Yeah, I'll do that.
Sure. Then we go to the next one, Avalanche. Again, this is probably one of my most favorite blockchains. And it uses something called the Snow protocol family, which is a consensus mechanism that they have developed. And one of the best things about it is that it's extremely fast. So if you look here at some of the figures, I don't know if you've discussed that before. Let me just, yeah. So what it does is the transactional throughput is very high. What does that mean? The number of transactions per second that it can handle. Now, please remember, blockchains actually don't do transactions per second. That's how we calculate it. Transactions happen, they are bunched and put together in blocks. And then depending upon how long the block took, we divide that by the number of transactions to give you this figure of TPS. So Avalanche does about 4,500. And if you compare it to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is 7, Ethereum 14, Polkadot 1,500. So compared to these, Avalanche is pretty fast. It is not the fastest. There are some other blockchains which are even faster. But yeah, it's pretty good. And my own project is about 1,200 TPS. We use the multi-chain framework, which does 1,200 TPS. So always remember, even though Bitcoin and Ethereum are pretty slow, they're kind of okay for the number of transactions that they actually have to handle. So if yours is a new project, honestly, you don't even need more than 100 TPS. It is very rare that your project would need thousands of TPS. So that's not so critical a factor to consider. I think what is more important is this, which is transactional finality, which means in how much time can you say that the transaction has now gone through and is very unlikely to be reversed. That I think is a more critical thing. Now in Avalanche, that's less than 2 seconds, which is phenomenal. Bitcoin is 60 minutes, Ethereum 6 minutes, Polkadot 60 seconds. So what does it mean? So as you know, in Bitcoin, it's an average of 10 minutes per block, but we usually wait for 6 blocks before we can say that, okay, what went in that first block is now very unlikely to be reversed. That is why we say Bitcoin 60 minutes for transactional finality, Ethereum 6 minutes, Polkadot 1 minute. And here, of course, like I said, Avalanche is just 2 seconds. So that's a great feature. And this Avalanche native token can be used for staking, paying fees, providing a unit of account. So that is the most common use case. So in Avalanche, multiple blockchains can be created. And wherever you use those entire ecosystem of blockchains, everywhere AVAX, which is their native token, is going to be used. Any questions? Otherwise, Shinam, can you just type in a no so that I know I'm clearly audible, but there are no questions? Okay, I see a question.
Actually, I just typed one and
Sure,
I'm typing one.
Okay. Are you not able to copy paste the questions? Okay.
I'm actually doing that, but yeah.
Okay. So Gunjan's question is, can one blockchain, for example, Ethereum, would run on Algorand? I do not understand your question, Gunjan. Can you kind of explain in detail what you mean by that? In the meanwhile, I'll go ahead, but I'll wait for your more detailed version of the question. Then let's talk about Binance Smart Chain, which I think as of today is my #1 favorite blockchain. And I think for Shinam also, it is the #1. So
That's right.
it is your favorite, right? So one very interesting thing which people don't know about Binance Chain is that actually it is a fork of the Go Ethereum or the Geth protocol. So it's actually built on Ethereum. So they've forked it, which basically means they've taken that entire code and then made a new blockchain and then of course added some very interesting features to it. So like I told you that Binance Chain was Binance's first blockchain, but that was optimized for fast decentralized trading, right? Because at the end of the day, what is Binance, right? Binance is an exchange. That's what they started off with. So it is optimized for that. But because they then realized that they needed a blockchain for smart contracts and programmability, that is why they created their second blockchain, which is Binance Smart Chain. Now, this has a block time of about 3 seconds. And as I told you earlier, the native token of both the blockchains is BNB. And then, of course, you have validators who are there. But now there is a problem with Binance. And the fact is that it is not very decentralized, right? Because the number of validators is, I would say, pretty low. So it has 11 validators on the testnet and 21 on the mainnet. Now, these validators are selected every 24 hours, but they are required to stake a minimum of 10,000 BNB. And at the current price of BNB, it's like really, really expensive. So it's not very decentralized. The number of validators is too new and the cost to become a validator is too high. And that I would say would be a very major disadvantage of Binance. Other than that, I think it's brilliant. Yash's question is, what does opt-in mean in Algorand? So you can say, you can give a permission to an address that nobody can send you assets unless you have agreed to accept that asset. So that is what opt-in means. Hope that made it clear. Let me just take another question. So Ashit Dharwal's question is, how does rekeying actually work? Good point. So what I'll do is, that's a slightly more complex thing. After this session, I'll add that. I'll give you a write-up on rekeying in a little more detail. Gunjan's question is, if you can also explain what is the origin of those public blockchains, country of origin. That's a very interesting question and very, very difficult to answer. So what do we mean by country of origin? Do we mean where the team is based? Or do we mean where the first node was set up? Or do we mean where is the maximum number of nodes running? So that would also change my answer. So in Bitcoin's case, we don't know who started it. It may be a gentleman, it may be a woman, it may be a bunch of people, we don't know. Where are the Bitcoin nodes running? That's easy for us to know, and you can see the continent and country-wise breakup. But by and large, Binance is a Chinese company, because we know that because of their original white paper. Ethereum, on the other hand, well, Vitalik, I think, was Russian or Ukrainian and now is a Canadian citizen. But Ethereum is quite popular around the world. So it's tough to say what is the country of origin. So Gunjan, I'm sorry, I'm not able to correctly answer your question. Let me just take another question. Kamakshi says, can you please give use cases of each blockchain which are implemented? Yes. So what I'll do, Kamakshi, at the end of it, once I give you this overview, I'll go back to that list and then tell you which one makes sense for what kind of use case. By that time, it'll become clearer for you also. Let me just take one more question from Gunjan. Can one blockchain run on Algorand? It means that, can Ethereum as a public blockchain currency run on another blockchain? That's a very good question. So that is where the concept of a wrapped currency comes in. Let me give you an example. Bitcoin runs on its own blockchain called the Bitcoin blockchain, but a lot of Bitcoin transactions actually happen on Ethereum. So what happens is, somebody in their white paper, they mentioned how they're going to do it technically. They lock a certain number of Bitcoins on the original Bitcoin blockchain. That's locked. Against it, they will issue WBTC, wrapped Bitcoin, on the Ethereum blockchain. So at any point of time, you can see there are 10,000 wrapped Bitcoins here, and against it, 10,000 Bitcoins are locked in the original blockchain. And then you can use it here. So that is currently how things are happening. And the reason also I will explain to you. Because blockchains are not interoperable yet. But let me explain to you, probably blockchain interoperability will not come for a long time. You look at operating systems. They've been around forever, but you still don't have Ubuntu being interoperable directly with Microsoft Windows, for example. You still need some kind of middleware which is going to change data from one place to another. So we can't expect blockchains to become interoperable so fast. A lot of people are working in that direction to enable atomic transactions, which is something you will learn later, between, say, Monero and Bitcoin. The work is going on, but it's a little too early. So as of today, whenever we want one crypto to run on another blockchain, we use the concept of wrapping, which, to be very honest, is a manual process. And yes, you do have to trust people that they are actually locking that much on one blockchain and then issuing on another. So Gunjan, to conclude your question, yes, you can run ETH on Algorand, but it'll have to be wrapped, and that's how it will be done. Hope that makes it clear. Then Cardano is another one which has its proof of stake consensus mechanism, which is got a very confusing name. I never know how to pronounce it. You can see it here, OUROBUROS. Now it's interesting, Cardano, and it is very academic oriented. A lot of academic papers have been written upon it. But honestly speaking, from a practical point of view, I very rarely come across use cases running on Cardano. So I don't want to go too deep into it. Its native token is called ADA, and that can be staked. And later, as more and more services are built on top of it, I would say Cardano is still kind of a work in progress. So let's give it some more time. There is a very interesting platform which is called Celo or Celo, CELO. Now, what makes it great is it is the only blockchain which is mobile first, which means that everything they do is built around your phone. So that gives it a very interesting uniqueness. Average block time is only 5 seconds. It is compatible to EVM, to the Ethereum virtual machine, which is a good thing. And it uses your mobile phone number is mapped to your public keys. So it kind of makes it really easy for people to use in a mobile way. which is why I would say in the long run, probably Celo would be one of the blockchains which would definitely stay, because it's fast and because it's mobile first. So I think that makes it very, very unique. And of course, it has its native token, which is Celo, and it also has a US dollar backed stablecoin, which is called CUSD. So that's kind of about this. Ethereum, we've done in great detail in the previous session, so I won't cover it again. The video is here. We did more than a 1 hour video on it. Okay. Then there is another very interesting one, which is called Fantom. Fantom with an F. This has a very unique consensus mechanism, which is called leaderless proof of stake, or lechesis, which is, by the way, also the name of a medicine. So I don't know whether they took it from there. Now, what is interesting about Fantom is that transactions are finalized in 1 second and they cost a fraction of a cent. So it's really cheap, really, really fast. Now, because of that, it is believed that it conquers the blockchain trilemma. So this blockchain trilemma is a very interesting concept. I think Vitalik came out with it, where he said that in any blockchain, out of 3 features, you can only have 2. Those 3 features are scalability, security, and decentralization. So what he's saying is, out of these 3, you cannot have all 3. You can have only any 2. But Fantom says it gives you all 3. It is very scalable, very secure, and very decentralized. Now, kind of, I'm taking their word for it. There's no way for us to individually verify that, but that's an interesting thing. And they have a modular architecture, which means Ethereum-based dApps can be ported very easily to the Fantom Opera mainnet. So that's another advantage that they have. Then in Fantom, one very, very unique thing which I'd like to point out here, each application is running on a separate blockchain. So when we look at Ethereum, everything runs on one blockchain. So if a very resource hungry dApp comes in, sometimes it can put a load on the entire blockchain, which happened recently to Polygon also. But that doesn't happen in Fantom because multiple blockchains are being spun up. So if a lot of load because of some dApp happens on one blockchain, it doesn't impact the others. So that, I think, would be one of the best unique features. And of course, each of these blockchains can have its own custom tokens, token economics, and governance rules. But they all end up using the same consensus mechanism, which is lechesis, and that's what makes it really, really unique. What I would say as a disadvantage is you have to stake a minimum of 1 million FTMs. So that again is a huge cost. So I would say that would be kind of like a negative point. Let me just take a few questions. Sharvari's question is, subnet means different blockchains? Yes, kind of. Usually that's the common terminology when we use. So we say networks or sub-networks. So that usually implies separate blockchains, but usually they are all linked to each other because of the consensus mechanisms. Let me go to the next one. Kamakshi's question is, what is the difference between BEP2, BEP8, BEP20? Yeah, so these are different standards. So you remember when we were talking about Ethereum, we saw that there are different standards. So ERC20 is the Ethereum fungible tokens. ERC 721, Ethereum non-fungible tokens. Similarly, in the Binance world, they have their own terminology, BEP2, BEP8, BEP20. So you can say BEP20 is like ERC20. So that is the Binance Smart Chain version of fungible tokens. Hope that answered your question. Then we have another one which is called Flow. Interesting one. And you know, if you've heard about this game called CryptoKitties, in fact, you could call CryptoKitties the world's first non-fungible token. So, you know, you can breed these creatures which are kitties, cats. The team behind that is the one that has made Flow. So what they've done is their speed and throughput is much better because of various factors, including that fact that they have something called collector nodes, execution nodes, verifier nodes, and consensus nodes. So because they've kind of divided the role of different entities, they're able to get faster speeds. And they have a native token, which is FLOW, and it can be used for staking, transaction fees, and storage fees. I'll be very honest, I have not really had an opportunity to do too much work on Flow. It's not so popular, at least in the kind of industry that I work in. Then comes another very interesting one, which is Polkadot. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it recently, because they auctioned parachains. Now you'll wonder what parachains are. So before I go into that, they have a very interesting consensus mechanism. So they use two, something called grandpa and something called babe. Very funny names. And the full forms are really complex. So grandpa is ghost-based recursive ancestor deriving prefix agreement. And babe is blind assignment for blockchain extension. But don't get worried, let's just look at the basics. So what is different about Polkadot is that it is not a single conventional blockchain. It is an ecosystem of blockchains which are parallel to each other. So we call them parallelized chains or parachains. Now, each of these parachains can serve for a unique use case, but at the base, there is something called relay chain. And all of these parallel chains are plugging into the relay chain. And the relay chain's job is two things. One is to secure the parachain, and second is that is what contains the consensus and voting logic. So parallel chains for different use cases, and at the base you have a relay chain connecting them. So kind of you could say similar to, okay, there are a few other blockchains which do similar stuff, but Polkadot is pretty famous for that, and it's was conceptualized by one of the Ethereum co-founders. And Dr. Gavin Wood is the guy who actually came out with Solidity also, which is why we take Polkadot quite seriously. It's a very important blockchain. So very recently they did their auction. So different people had to bid for different parallel chains, and they bid huge amounts of money. And now over the next few months, we expect to see Polkadot actually going live with a lot of use cases. And DOT, which is their native token, it's for operating the network as well as from a governance point of view. Then, of course, we have Polygon, which, well, now here I can tell you that this project is an India-led project. So the three co-founders are Indians. Of course, today it's more global in nature, but since someone wanted to know about the country of origin, I could say Polygon has an India origin team. Their native token is Matic because they actually changed their name, I think last year in Jan or something, which is why their name and their symbol are so different. Now, what it started off by doing was that it started off actually as a scaling solution for Ethereum. So Ethereum is slow and costly, and Polygon built a set of products and services to solve this problem. So they have a software development kit which allows you to build something called Ethereum sidechains. So those are blockchains which are linked to Ethereum in a two-way kind of a peg. Now there are three ways in which they function, these solutions, right? So one is you do a bunch of transactions on Polygon. They are all bundled into one submission and then sent into the Ethereum blockchain. So we call that as a plasma chain. Second, multiple transactions can be bundled into one transaction and then goes into Ethereum. We call it ZK rollups. Or the third option is where plasma chains also help you to scale Ethereum contracts. They're called optimistic rollups. So those are the three ways in which it functions. And now, of course, Polygon also has its own blockchain, right? And that is where Matic token is used, and you can use it for paying for transaction fee. Within the ecosystem, it is a payment and settlement, and it powers this proof of stake side chain, which they also have. Let me just take some questions. So Ashit's question is, in Ethereum, does the miner have to run the code inside the contract account? No, it's a little different, but I'm not sure how to explain that in a simple language. So all I can tell you to answer to this is no, but a detailed answer I'll probably have to think and write it and share it with you. Yash has asked, which would be the best public blockchain for commodity-backed tokens? So Yash, we are going to see this after we discuss all 15, 16. Then we'll go in and I'll tell you which one is good for which use case. Then we have, of course, Solana. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it. Although over the last few months, there's been a lot of negative publicity because it has gone down many times. It has suffered quite a lot of attacks. So that's quite scary because some of these attacks actually brought the entire blockchain down for about 18 hours or so. Now, the doubt that creates is it so centralized that the attack brought down the entire blockchain? Because blockchains are supposed to be decentralized. They are supposed to have thousands of nodes. Even if a few hundred go down, at least the others should run. At least one node should run. But if the entire blockchain goes down, then that's a scary situation. So let's see how Solana fights back from this. But as of right now, people are a little cautious about using it. It has something called proof of history and Tower BFT as its consensus mechanism. Some of the great things, block time is amazing, 400 milliseconds, and transaction fee is just 1 cent. We have used Solana quite a bit. Shinam, if I'm not mistaken, I think you also are a big fan of Solana.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to use.
And Binance too.
Sure. No, we've already mentioned Binance. I'm sure the Binance guys pay you to keep talking about them.
No, they don't. Still,
you should share some of that money with me. So Solana's native token is SOL, used for the standard purposes of staking and other things. It has a lot of apps which are running, more than 400 of them. So it's got a very vibrant ecosystem. Then is a very interesting blockchain which most people don't know about, which is called Stacks. It uses something called proof of transfer. And this is a very interesting and very unique kind of a blockchain. It is bringing smart contracts and dApps to Bitcoin. So, a lot of people have this misconception, right? They say that, okay, you know what, Bitcoin is old generation, so it doesn't have smart contracts. Sure, but that doesn't mean you have to move to a new blockchain for that. You can bring smart contracts and dApps to an old world blockchain by using technologies like Stacks, right? Or even on Bitcoin, we have something called the Lightning Network. So what Stacks is doing is, it uses Bitcoin as the base layer. So whatever happens in Stacks is being settled on the Bitcoin blockchain, which without doubt is the world's most secure blockchain. So I come from a cybersecurity background, and I can tell you one thing. The only real test of whether something is secure is how long has it lasted, how many people have attacked it, and has it survived? And nothing beats Bitcoin. The world's oldest blockchain, maximum number of attacks happen on it, and it's kind of survived almost every attack. Yes, it did get hacked in 2010, but that's fine. That was when it was very, very new. But other than that, I would say it is the strongest blockchain without any doubt. Stacks brings dApps and smart contracts to Bitcoin, and that's why I'm a huge fan of it. And they have a native token called STX, and you can use it for executing smart contracts, processing transactions, and registering new digital assets. And Stacks connects to the Bitcoin blockchain through its consensus mechanism called proof of transfer. So I'm quite a big fan of it. Just take some questions. Saurabh's question is, can you cover one Indian blockchain and its use cases? Sure. So I will talk about use cases, but I think Polygon is quite Indian origin, and of course, hybrid finance blockchain, which is my project. Well, yes, most of our core team is again Indian. So definitely I'll talk to you more about that. But just give me some time. Let me just finish on this. Right? Ashit's question is, where exactly is the smart contract run? So you remember when we were talking about Ethereum, we spoke about the Ethereum virtual machine that is maintaining that entire state. And the whole Ethereum protocol's job is to maintain that. Well, that's where these smart contracts run. That's what EVM is about. But if you would like to know more, you could go through that earlier video, and I think you'll get most of your answers. And later we are anyway going to do practicals where we are going to create smart contracts and run them. I'm sure things will become clearer for you. Sumit's question, when there are so many other blockchain cryptos with better utility speed, then why is the traded volume for Bitcoin and ETH still on the higher side? Very good question, Sumit. That's because there is no relation between these two. Okay, crypto trading and investing, they are different people. And crypto or rather blockchain use cases is totally different. So for example, I am a blockchain architect and a blockchain developer. So most of what I do is on that side where we are developing solutions. So in that world where I am, probably Binance Smart Chain should be number one, right? But in the world of investing, they are normal people who are not related to the blockchain industry. They are not developers or architects. They are buying and selling because they feel the price will go up and they will make a profit. So there are two very different ways of thinking, which is why whenever I speak about crypto, I speak from a different point of view, from a developer's point of view. Other people will speak from an investor's point of view. And because those are very different views, that is the reason you see not just the trading volume, but the market cap of Bitcoin is so high, Ethereum is so high, whereas the Binance chain is much lower. Because that's a whole different world and it runs on a completely different logic. It runs more on what Elon Musk tweets rather than on what the blockchain is actually used for. Hope that answers your question. But don't worry, we will be going into this in detail when we talk about cryptos. Then we have at number 13, Stellar. Now, that's a very old platform. I used to use it a lot a few years ago, not anymore. It has its own consensus called Stellar consensus, and the crypto is XLM. Now, at one time, it was very popular. It is a fork of something called Ripple, which many of you may have heard about. And I'll be very honest. So even though it has its own distributed, decentralized exchange, and it's a pretty good platform, good speed, very cheap to use. But over time, I think it's kind of lost its relevance. I don't see too many people working on Stellar anymore. I mean, even today, I can tell you it's an awesome platform. Works really well. But for whatever reason, hardly anyone builds on it. So it's kind of losing relevance. Then again, one of my all-time favorites would be Terra, which uses something called the Tendermint delegated proof of stake, and the native is Luna. Now, when we talk about this, so it is one of the largest DeFi blockchains in the world, and still most people don't know about it. Now, this, whether it is number 5 or number 2, the numbers keep changing up and down, but it's a very popular decentralized finance blockchain. And what is unique about it is it has a concept called algorithmic stablecoins. So, you've always heard about stablecoins like Tether or USDT, where we talk about fiat-backed stablecoins. So they are maintaining some dollars in their bank account. Terra is very different, where they say that let's have stablecoins, but nothing to do with fiat currency. It is algorithm controlled. So the value is maintained not by the bank balance they have, but by the algorithm which is in place. So you can have these algorithmic stable coins, and then they can run on this platform, and it has two kinds of tokens. So one is what we call as the Terra stable coins. These are minted by burning Luna, which is their core crypto, and Luna is their native token, which is used for governance and mining purposes. Then the second last is Tezos, which is a proof of stake. XTZ is the native. Very similar to Ethereum. And to be very honest, I don't really know how to describe it in more detail. I mean, you can just say it's another version of Ethereum, a little cheaper, a little faster. And as a holder, you have to stake 8,000 XTZ, and then you can vote on changes which will happen. So it's more like a governance token which comes into the picture. Another thing I could say is it gives you a lot of peer-to-peer transactions, which is ultimately what every blockchain does. So nothing really so unique. And finally, we have Waves, which uses a leased proof of stake. And again, that's just another blockchain of that. I mean, they use a native language called Ride. And well, it does not have fixed fee, and it doesn't have it has fixed fee and not a variable gas. So like in Ethereum, gas fee goes up and down. I think even in Polygon it does. In Waves, it's kind of fixed. But again, I don't see too much action happening around Waves. So I'm not really sure how well it's going to do in the future. Now let's get back to the overview. So as we have discussed here, let's see some kind of comparison. So Algorand, I think, would be great in use cases where you need hybrid features like locking of assets, doing investigations, consumer protection. So personally, I'm very impressed with that thinking, and that is why I have brought a lot of those features into my own project, which is Hi-Fi Blockchain. Let me just take a couple of questions. So Sharwari's question is optimistic rollouts. What is meant by scale? Okay, scaling means to handle more transactions. So like I said, Ethereum, I think, was 14 transactions per second. How can we help to do more transactions by bringing a layer 2 or a separate kind of a layer which will make Ethereum transactions faster? That is the meaning of the word scaling. About optimistic rollups, I've explained it in this article, so I think your answer would be quite clear in that. Let's take another question. How proof of history consensus is being used? Okay, Gunjan, I won't be able to go into each of these because, like I said, there are about 80 consensus mechanisms. So I'm going to share the encyclopedia link with you. Once you go through them, and if you have any problem, I'll clarify for you. But don't worry, once you read the description, that's fairly easy to understand. So Avalanche, so we understood the first one. So Algorand, good for use cases where you want to do stuff which is regulated, and Hi-Fi Blockchain also fits into that thing. Then we have AVAX or Avalanche, which I would say is pretty fast. You can spin up multiple blockchains, quite cheap to use. So that's what's good about it. Binance as of today is the most mature. And honestly, my favorite blockchain as of today, and I would say you could use it for any kind of a use case.
Mine too.
Yeah, sure, Shinam. I'm sure again you got paid by them for that. So yes, Shinam's also. BFT is Byzantine fault tolerance. Again, explained in the article, so you'll get the deep meaning of that. Cardano, as of right now, I don't see the relevance much. Celo, wherever you need cell phone related. Right. Okay. So now can you check if it's okay, great. I'm sorry I got disconnected. My Zoom suddenly crashed. So I hope you're back and you're able to hear me and see me. Just okay, just give me a few seconds to restart this. Okay. I hope I'm audible and visible to all of you now. Shinam, can you just confirm that?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's continue. Polkadot too expensive because the para chain auctions went at huge amounts. So for most of us, I don't see the relevance of it yet. Let's see how it goes. Polygon, again, brilliant, makes it really easy and cheap to use. Ethereum. Solana, I'd say for the time being, let's wait. Let's see how they handle all these security challenges. And Stacks, if you want to do anything which relates to Bitcoin as well as smart contracts on Bitcoin, that's where Stacks would really come in. So, and of course, Terra is another great option and an alternative. If you don't want to use Binance Smart Chain or Polygon, you could use Terra for a lot of your use cases. So I hope this helped. And I will share this article link with you and some other links which I want you to go through. Other than that, if you have any questions, let's just handle them. Shinam, are there any questions?
It's disconnected because I think sorry, but in this blockchain era, my internet is not working right now. On my
Okay, so
laptop.
you're not able to see the
Questions anymore. Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting problem we are facing.
I know we are in blockchain, we are talking about crypto in the future, and the internet doesn't stop working.
Okay, but then how am I still hearing you?
From my phone.
Oh, okay. So, okay, guys, I'm really sorry, but I'm not able to see questions anymore because of an internet problem at Shinam's end. And I'm not really sure how to handle this. So I'm going to have to disconnect the session right now. But whatever questions you have, just post them below the video and I'll answer them. Shinam, by any chance, is your internet back?
On my phone, it is back. My phone, it is working. Just give me 1 minute. I'll try and connect my laptop using my phone. Just 1 second.
Sure, sure. Let me just try on my phone also. Just guys, please be patient. Give me a few seconds to figure this out. Shinam, are you able to do that? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not able to see any of the questions due to an internet problem. Just post it below in the comment and I'll answer. So thank you so much. Looking forward to speaking you in the next session, which will be next Wednesday at 3 p.m.